One of the primary advantages to asynchronous programming in JavaScript is that I can be doing lots of things simultaneously. If I tell the operating system to go ahead and open a couple of files for me, I tell the database to run a couple of queries, and I tell the network port to notify me whenever somebody connects, I can keep doing other things while I'm waiting for these events to happen. This lets me make maximal use of the CPU and available memory, and I can really be doing a lot of things, juggling a lot of different tasks at the same time. What I would like to do right now, however, is talk about the case where one of the things I'm doing is computationally expensive. I want to be doing something that takes a lot of time and consumes a lot of CPU. So to do that, I'm going to write a little array intersection function. So I'm going to say intersect two arrays, and I'm going to compute their intersection. So I'm going to say var intersection equals array, and then var I equals 0, I is less than r1.length. I'm going to go through each element in array 1. This is extremely inefficient. j0, j less than r2 length, j++, and then I'm going to say if r2j equals r1, whoopsie, I like that. I'm going to first intersection push r2j, and then great, I already know it exists, so I'm going to pass it back. When the loop is done and I've got all my intersected, I will return intersection like that. Now I'm going to then call intersect like this, and I'm going to print out the results. So arrays.r1, arrays.r2, and I'm going to print out the length of the returning array. So I've actually written a little class here, and you'll see more exactly about require and all of its details in a later lesson. But I've actually written an arrays file here, which has two arrays in it with like 50,000 or 100,000 elements in it or something, because I want this to take a long time. And they're exported as arrays R1 and R2 like that. So, assuming I've typed this all in correctly, let's go ahead and run node intersect. Probably should have made that a little faster. Anyway, the intersection of the two arrays is 9,500 elements. So, I'd like to do another thing. That took about 15 or 16 seconds. I'd like to set timeout, and I want to write a function to go console.log yo, yo, yo. And I want it to do that after 3 seconds, like that. Okay? So I should be getting a yo, yo, yo after 3 seconds, and then I should be getting the results of my intersect after 15 seconds. So let's run through this function again. And I'm going through 1, 2, 3, 4. My hello or my yo, yo, yo isn't coming up right now. So I definitely have created a problem here with my script by executing this computationally very intensive intersection. And you see finally here I do get my yo, 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 and I still do get the results of that. The problem is since Node runs only in one process, sort of in one thread, when somebody is taking up all the resources to do a computationally intensive operation, such as this intersection here, nobody else can do anything. So even though this set timeout is trying to wait 3 seconds and then call this function, it can't because this guy is being a huge hog and taking up all the resources. So there is a way to fix this, and there is a way to politely yield control of your script, of your function in JavaScript in Node. And there are two ways to do that. The first way is a thing called process.nextTick, and it takes a callback function. And the other one is actually called setImmediate, which also takes a callback function. Now, the process next tick is something that has been in sort of earlier versions of Node the most frequently used, and setImmediate is something that you're sort of starting to see in newer versions of Node. The difference is the process next tick tends to be a bit faster than setImmediate, but it doesn't support it doesn't lend itself as well because of the way it's implemented to sort of the use that we're about to show here. So we'll use setImmediate, and then we'll show you how you can use process next tick. But basically, these functions yield control and then tell the node process to execute the next function when you're ready. So what I'm going to do is, instead of executing for all of the i's and all of the j's, and there are 100,000 elements in each of these arrays, I think, so that's 10 billion operations. What I'd like to do is I'd like to only do 100,000 at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I is 0 here, and then I'm going to have j go and iterate through all of the things here, and I'm going to create a new function called subcompute intersection like this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if I is less than r1.length, then we'll say I++, and then we'll say we'll continue with the subcompute intersection. Otherwise, we have to change this now to have a callback because we've added an asynchronous element to it. And again, we're still going to break our sort of callback error pattern and not return any errors because we're just writing simple stuff that doesn't need errors. But I'm basically going to call back with the intersecting resulting array like that. And I'm going to set immediate on the subcompute intersection like that. So this is going to be here what's going to make it asynchronous. After I've done it 100,000 iterations of it, I'm going to tell Node, let other processes execute, but add this function to the stack. And since this function is executing within the context of this function, I still have this intersection and this I, and all of these local variables are maintained for me. So if I then iterate past the end of that array, then I'll do the callback and call the sort of calling function. That means I have to change the way that I call this guy here, and that is I need to first say intersect, and now I need to give it a callback function with results like that, and now I can say console.log or results.length. As so. Now there's one last thing I need to do, and that is in this intersect function, I set up some variables. I have this sort of nested function here. I need to call that function for the first time to start the whole process like that. So now what I'm going to do is, with my same two massive arrays, I'm going to compute the intersection, but only 100,000 elements at a time, and then for each of these, I'm going to sort of tell Node to pause me, and then when I'm done that, go ahead, after I'm done the pause and everybody else has had a chance to breathe, I'm going to go and compute that sub-intersection. So the other thing I'm going to do here is do console.log if I mod 1,000 equals 0, console.log I just want to sort of see some progress or something like that and show what's happening here. So assuming I typed that in correctly, I did not. Oops. So I need to first call arrays.r1, arrays.r2 like that. There we go. My arrays function now has the 3 parameters it needs. Now, I'm going to call it, and you'll see it's doing 1,000, 2,000, and now you'll see that other people are being given a chance to do their work, and that sort of set timeout function did actually execute. So you'll see the code does seem to be executing a little bit slowly here. The set immediate function isn't exactly the fastest. But it definitely does let us share our resources with other components of our node scripts or something like that. The other thing I wanted to talk about then quickly is next tick. Next tick is a little more suited for sort of sequential tasks. Let's say I'm processing an image, and so I have, process step 1, params, I can do some stuff. And then I can say when I'm done step 1, I can say process.next tick process step 2. And then I can say function process step 2. I'll get some other parameters from there. And then I can say process.next tick, process step 3. So the next tick functionality isn't as well suited to the sort of recursive continually looping or calling yourself back here functionality we have for the intersect. It's more suited for this. And indeed, if you'll see here, if we say process.next tick, if I try to run this program, it'll complain. It doesn't like it. and they want you to be using set immediate instead. Process next tick is very useful and interesting, and we will still see it in our programs, but probably more for sequential stuff like this, and it will let me yield control like that.